8 years. For over 8 years, this sound has meant adventure is about to begin. The Nintendo Switch wasn't just a console, it was a revolution in a box. But this isn't 2017. We've got powerful handheld PCs in our hands now, and even Nintendo's latest Switch 2 is on the scene. So does the original first edition Switch still have a place? Is it a smart buy for a newcomer, or is it just a piece of gaming history? Let's find out. So let's start with what's right here in our hands, the white Nintendo Switch OLED model. And honestly, the core design still has some magic. The first thing you notice is how light it is. At just under a pound, it's significantly lighter than a Steam Deck or even its own successor, the Switch 2. This makes it incredibly portable. It's the kind of device you can genuinely toss in a bag and forget it's there. The build is plastic, but it feels solid enough, and the improved wide kickstand on this OLED version is a world away from the flimsy little stick on the original 2017 model. Of course, the star of the show for this specific model is the 7-inch OLED screen. Even now it's beautiful, but here's the elephant in the room. It's only a 720p display. While that's fine for a screen this size, it definitely shows its age against the full HD screens of the Switch 2 and other modern handhelds. Now let's talk about the part of the design that hasn't aged so well, the Joy-Cons. While the concept is genius, the ergonomics are frankly not great for adults. The buttons are tiny, and the flat design can cause some serious hand cramps during a long session of Tears of the Kingdom. This is where competitors like the Steam Deck with their chunky, sculpted grips feel much more comfortable for extended play. And we can't ignore the infamous Joy-Con drift, which remains a potential issue. Compared to the Switch 2, which features larger, magnetically attached Joy-Con 2s, these feel like a first draft. So yes, the core design is still sleek and impressively lightweight, but the controls feel decidedly stuck in the past. Moving from the physical hardware to the software, the Switch's operating system is a real mixed bag right now. On one hand, we have to give it credit for its simplicity. It boots up quickly, and its entire focus is on getting you into a game with minimal fuss. But after 8 years, that simplicity now feels more like stagnation. The user interface is basically unchanged from 2017. We're still limited to a basic black or white theme. There are no folders to organize a large game library, and essential media apps are nowhere to be found. It's a stark contrast to the Switch 2, which finally integrated a native game chat feature, something we see as a clear admission that the old way just wasn't cutting it anymore. When you put the Switch OS next to the highly customizable PC-like experience of SteamOS or even the full Windows desktop on an ROG Ally, Nintendo's walled garden approach feels incredibly restrictive and frankly outdated. Now for the Switch's undisputed trump card, the games. Let's be clear, the Nintendo Switch has one of the greatest game libraries of all time. It's home to generation-defining masterpieces like The Legend of Zelda, Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, Super Mario Odyssey, and Animal Crossing New Horizons. It also became the perfect home for countless indie gems. The library is massive and full of absolute classics. However, now, you have to see this library for what it is, a historical archive. The constant flow of major new releases has slowed to a trickle as developers have shifted their focus to the Switch 2. So, what does this mean for a new buyer? Well, the Switch 2 is fully backward compatible, which means it can play all these same games. More importantly, many of those classics are getting performance-enhancing patches or full Switch 2 edition upgrades that improve resolution and frame rates that too mean the definitive way to play them is now on the new hardware. This puts the original Switch in a tough spot. Its incredible library is its biggest strength, but it's a library that is largely complete and is technically surpassed by its own successor. It's an amazing collection, but you're buying into the past, not the future. All right, let's talk about actual gaming performance. Under the hood, the Switch is running on the same custom NVIDIA Tegra X1 chip and 4 GB of RAM, and right now, that hardware is seriously showing its age. We fired up a few popular free-to-play titles to see how it holds up. In Asphalt 9 Legends, the OLED screen makes the colors look great, but the performance is all over the place. It targets 60 frames per second, but in races with a lot of action, the frame rate is wildly inconsistent, which can be jarring. For a game like Fortnite, the situation is even more dire. The Switch is locked to 30 frames per second and has to make huge visual sacrifices in texture quality and draw distance. In a cross-play shooter where your opponents on other platforms are running at 60 frames per second or higher, you are at a significant competitive disadvantage. It's a night and day difference compared to the Switch 2, which runs Fortnite at a smooth 60 frames per second and can even handle demanding AAA games like Cyberpunk 2077, something that is simply impossible on the original Switch. On the plus side, the OLED model's battery life is a standout, clocking in around 5 hours for demanding games, which is actually better than the more powerful Switch 2. But overall, the performance for modern cross-platform games has crossed a line from being a simple compromise to being a genuine barrier to enjoyment. Despite all its aging parts, there is one area where the original Switch still feels revolutionary, and that's its flexibility. The core concept of playing a game on your TV, then lifting the console out of the dock and comfortably continuing on the go is just as magical today as it was in 2017. It's a feature that competitors have tried to imitate but never perfected. While you can dock a Steam Deck or a Lenovo Legion Go, it's a much clunkier process that often involves buying a separate dock and tweaking settings. The Switch just works. But the real killer feature is the local multiplayer. The ability to slide off the Joy-Cons and hand one to a friend for an instant two-player match of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is something no other handheld does this effortlessly. This isn't about technical power, it's about social accessibility. The Switch 2 obviously carries this DNA forward, but given that the original OLED is lighter and more compact, it arguably remains the purest expression of this play anywhere with anyone philosophy. So, is the original Nintendo Switch relevant? For most people, our verdict is no. The Switch 2 offers a massive leap in performance and quality of life features, while PC handhelds offer more power and cheaper games. However, the original Switch still shines as a budget option for its incredible back catalog or as a secondary console for Nintendo exclusives. Kids are still gonna love this piece of handheld. Or the adults, save up for the Switch 2. Thanks for watching, like, share, and subscribe to get more videos like this.